The lights died first, then the doors sealed, then 20 figures dropped from the vents above the ballroom, and I knew, in that single heartbeat, that this was the night I had trained my whole life for. I am Daniel Hart. Most people in this station do not know my name. They know me only as the human who stands behind Princess Arya Venlor, silent, watching, waiting. To them, I am a wall with a heartbeat, hired because my species is strong and does not complain. That is what they believe. That is what I let them believe. The gala had been going for 3 hours. Ambassadors from 6 rival houses filled the Golden Hall, sipping drinks the color of starlight, trading smiles that hid old grudges. Arya stood at the center of it all in a long silver gown, speaking softly to a nervous trade minister, while I stood 2 steps behind her, watching every door, every shadow, every hand that moved too quickly toward a coat pocket. Then, at exactly 9:14, the chandeliers above us flickered once and went dark. A gasp rose through the crowd. Somewhere glass shattered. Red emergency light bathed the hall, and out of the smoke and shifting shadows, they came. 20 of them, dressed in matching dark uniforms, faces hidden behind smooth masks, moving with the practiced calm of people who had done this before. Arya's own guards, 6 tall Venlorian soldiers trained in formal duels, froze. I do not blame them. Their entire lives had been built around single combat, one opponent, clear rules, a bow at the end. Nothing in their training had prepared them for a room full of enemies with no rules at all. I did not freeze. I grabbed Arya by the arm and pulled her behind the thick marble column beside the stage, the one carved with the crest of 6 houses, the one strong enough to stop almost anything. My mind was already working through the layout of the hall, the exits, the timing, because a plan had already begun forming the moment the lights went out. It was a simple plan. Some might even call it foolish, but I have learned that simple plans survive chaos better than clever ones. Do not stop moving. Do not let them find a rhythm. Do not give them time to think. The first 3 assassins reached the column within seconds. I stepped out to meet them, empty-handed, because the only weapon I needed was already attached to my shoulders. I grabbed a serving cart loaded with silver trays and pushed it forward with everything I had, driving it straight into the group, like a small vehicle at full speed. 2 of them went down hard, sliding across the polished floor, their weapons skittering away from their hands. A third came at me from the side, fast, aiming to end this quickly. I twisted away from his strike, caught his wrist, and used his own momentum to send him crashing into a nearby table. Plates and glasses rained down around him. He did not get back up right away. Behind me, I heard Arya's sharp intake of breath. She was still crouched by the column, watching, her eyes wide but steady. She was frightened, yes, but she was not panicking. That told me something important about her. She was built of tougher material than the silk and jewels suggested. More of them closed in. I counted quickly, the way I always do in moments like this, breaking the crowd into groups, deciding which cluster to hit first, which to avoid, which to use against each other. 5 to my left, 6 to my right, the rest circling wide to cut off the exits. I grabbed a fallen serving tray and used it like a shield, catching a blow meant for my head, feeling the impact travel up my arm. The tray bent, but held. I pushed forward instead of backward, because backing away only gives an enemy room to reset. I have learned that lesson many times over many years. A woman in a dark mask lunged at me with a short baton. I sidestepped, let her momentum carry her past me, and used the tray to knock the weapon from her grip. She stumbled into one of her own companions, and for a moment, their formation broke apart, confused, tangled. That confusion was exactly what I wanted. My people are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest, nor the most graceful, nor the most naturally gifted with any weapon. What we have, what has always set us apart, is a refusal to stop. Long before we built ships or reached the stars, we survived on a world full of much larger, much faster predators, simply because we never knew when to give up. That instinct is still inside every one of us, buried deep, waiting for a night exactly like this one. I heard Arya moving behind the column, and turning briefly, I saw she had found a service panel hidden behind a curtain, the kind used by station staff to adjust temperature and airflow during large events. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls, and I realized she was not hiding at all. She was working. "Give me 10 seconds," she called out, her voice steady despite everything happening around us. I gave her more than that. I turned back to the fight and pressed forward again, refusing to let any of them settle into a comfortable position. A tall assassin swung a long weapon toward my ribs, and I twisted just enough to avoid the worst of it, though I still felt the sharp line of pain along my side. I did not slow down. Slowing down was not part of the plan. I grabbed the nearest chair and swept it low, catching 2 sets of legs at once, sending both attackers tumbling. I stepped over them quickly, keeping my back toward the column, keeping myself between Arya and every single threat in that hall. The lights flickered again, and for one brief second, I saw the whole room clearly. 20 had become perhaps 16 still standing, though many were dazed, confused, struggling to reorganize in the dim red light. I used that moment to grab a fallen decanter of dark liquid and hurl it toward the last working section of the broken chandelier system above us. Sparks flew, and the section went fully dark, plunging half the hall into true blackness. Some might think losing all light would put me at a disadvantage. It did not. I had spent years training in exactly these conditions, learning to move through darkness using sound, using instinct, using memory of a room mapped out in my mind before the first shadow ever moved. My opponents, however, had trained for precision strikes, for clean lines of sight, for controlled environments. Total darkness was my advantage, not theirs. I moved through the black hall like a current through water, striking where I sensed movement, redirecting where I sensed a blow coming, always circling back toward the column, toward Arya, never allowing myself to be pulled too far from her side. A voice called out orders in a language I did not recognize, sharp and frustrated, and I understood immediately that their leader was losing control of the situation. Good. A losing plan makes people desperate, and desperate people make mistakes. Suddenly the air around us shifted, a strange pulling sensation, and I heard a rush of wind followed by startled cries. The lights flickered back on just enough to reveal what Arya had done. She had used the service panel to vent a section of the northern hall into the station's emergency pressure system, pulling 6 of the remaining assassins off their feet and slamming them hard against the far wall before an emergency barrier sealed the area completely, protecting the rest of us from any lasting effect. I stared at her for half a second, genuinely surprised. She caught my look and gave a small, tired smile. "I read the station blueprints on the way here," she said simply. "I did not trust my own guards not to freeze. I did not know I would need it for this." I almost laughed, despite everything, almost. 10 remained now, spread out, some limping, all of them clearly reconsidering the wisdom of their mission. I did not give them time to reconsider anything. I moved toward the nearest group, keeping my movements unpredictable, refusing to let any pattern form that they could exploit. One of them, larger than the rest, stepped forward and tried something different. He waited, hands raised, studying me carefully, clearly hoping I would tire soon. He was not wrong that I was tired. My side ached where I had been struck earlier. My arms felt heavy. My breathing had grown ragged. But tired is not the same as finished, and finished is not something my body understands easily. I let him think he had the advantage. I let my movements slow slightly, deliberately, drawing him closer, closer, until he finally committed to an attack. The moment he did, I sidestepped and used his own forward motion against him, guiding him past me and into a support beam with enough force to end his part in the fight completely. The remaining 9 exchanged glances, and I could see the calculation happening behind their masks. 20 of them had entered this hall with a clear plan, confident, well-trained, expecting an easy victory against a princess and a handful of formal duelists. They had not expected one human who refused every single rule they understood about combat. Behind me, 2 of Arya's own guards finally shook off their shock and joined the fight, striking with the disciplined, elegant style of Venlorian duelists. It was not the chaotic, relentless style I used, but it was effective, especially now that the enemy formation had fully collapsed. Together, in strange but complementary rhythm, we pushed the remaining assassins back toward the doors they had originally used to enter. I felt every second stretch and blur together, the way it always does in moments like this, time losing its normal shape. I do not remember every single movement that followed, only the constant pressure of forward motion, refusing retreat, refusing rest, refusing anything except continuing until the threat was gone. When the last of them finally broke away, choosing escape over continued engagement, silence fell over the hall like a heavy blanket. The emergency lights steadied into a soft amber glow, and for the first time in what felt like hours, though it had truly been only minutes, nothing moved except dust settling gently through the air. I stood near the center of the ruined hall, breathing hard, my uniform torn, a shallow line of pain along my ribs reminding me sharply that I was not made of stone, whatever the ambassadors liked to believe. Around me lay overturned tables, shattered glass, and several stunned figures who would soon find themselves in the custody of station security. Arya stepped out from behind the column, her silver gown dusty, but her posture straight, her chin lifted. She walked toward me slowly, stepping carefully over debris, her eyes studying me with an expression I had never seen from her before. Not fear, not simple gratitude. Something closer to genuine understanding. "They told me humans were simple creatures," she said quietly, stopping just in front of me. "Strong, yes, but without strategy, without depth." I managed a tired smile despite the ache spreading through my side. "We are simple," I admitted. "We just never learned how to stop moving forward, even when everything says we should." She studied my face for a long moment, and something shifted behind her eyes, some old assumption quietly falling away. "I owe you my life," she said simply. "You owe yourself quite a lot as well," I replied honestly. "That vent trick saved us both valuable time." A faint, surprised laugh escaped her, softer than I expected given everything that had just happened. "I suppose we make a strange team." Station security arrived minutes later, flooding the hall with light and noise, gathering the defeated assassins, tending to the injured guards, questioning shaken ambassadors who had watched the entire event unfold from behind overturned tables. Arya remained close to me throughout the questioning, something the other ambassadors clearly noticed, whispers passing quietly between them. Later that night, after the hall had been cleared and the official reports had been filed, I found myself standing on a quiet observation deck overlooking the stars, my ribs bandaged, my uniform replaced, exhaustion settling deep into every muscle. Arya joined me there, wrapped in a warm outer coat, her earlier composure now replaced with quiet reflection. "You could have simply protected me from behind that column," she said, standing beside me, looking out at the endless field of stars. "You did far more than that. Protecting you from behind a column only works if the danger stays in front of it," I said. 20 people surrounding a room rarely respect boundaries like that." She nodded slowly, absorbing that thought. "The other houses will hear about tonight very quickly. They will hear that a human guard fought off an organized attack meant to end my life before I could secure any lasting alliances. Let them hear it," I said. "Maybe it will make the next attempt a little less likely." "Or maybe," she said, turning to face me fully, "it will simply change how people view your entire species, not as simple strength to be hired and forgotten, but as something far more dangerous to underestimate." I considered her words carefully. For years, humans serving among the stars had been treated as useful tools, valued for raw strength and endurance, but rarely respected for anything beyond that narrow function. Tonight had shown, quite clearly, that such assumptions came with serious risk attached. "There is an old saying among my people," I told her, watching the distant stars shift slowly outside the viewport. "We were never given natural weapons the way some species were. No claws, no venom, nothing built specifically for combat. What we developed instead was something quieter. The simple refusal to give up, no matter the odds stacked against us. It carried us through very difficult times long before we ever left our own world." Arya was quiet for a long moment, considering this. "That refusal saved my life tonight." "It also gave you the chance to save yourself," I reminded her. "That vent trick was not something in my training. That was entirely yours." She smiled slightly at that, something warmer entering her expression. "Perhaps we complement each other rather well then. Strategy paired with pure determination." "Perhaps," I agreed. We stood together in comfortable silence after that, watching the stars. neither of us needing to fill the quiet with unnecessary words. The events of the evening replayed quietly in my mind, not with fear, but with a strange, settled clarity. Every choice made in that chaotic hall had led us both to this calmer moment, safe, standing together, having faced something dangerous, and come through it intact. Word of the attack spread quickly through the station over the following days, exactly as Arya had predicted. Ambassadors who had once looked past me without a second glance began offering careful nods of respect whenever our paths crossed. Some asked quiet questions about human training methods, clearly reconsidering long-held assumptions about my species. Others simply avoided eye contact altogether, uncertain how to process what they had witnessed. Arya's standing among the 6 houses shifted as well, surviving an assassination attempt of that scale, especially one involving 20 coordinated attackers, spoke volumes about both her personal resilience and the quality of protection surrounding her. Alliances that had seemed uncertain before the gala grew noticeably firmer in the weeks that followed. I remained at her side through all of it, watching doorways, studying new faces, staying alert to any sign of renewed danger. The job itself had not changed. What had changed was how people viewed the person doing it. One quiet afternoon, several weeks later, Arya found me in the training hall reserved for station security personnel, working through a series of exercises meant to keep both body and mind sharp for whatever might come next. She watched silently from the doorway for a while, before finally speaking. "I have been thinking about that night often," she said, stepping further into the room, "about how quickly everything can change, and how easily we hold on to assumptions until something forces us to question them." I lowered the training weight I had been working with and turned to face her fully. "Assumptions get people killed," I said simply. "The assassins assumed your guards would remain frozen. They assumed I was simple muscle with no real strategy behind it. Both assumptions cost them dearly." "And what assumption did you make about me?" she asked, a hint of curiosity coloring her tone. I thought about that honestly before answering. "I assumed you would need protecting the entire time," I admitted. "I was wrong about that particular detail." She smiled at my honesty, something genuine and warm passing between us in that quiet training hall. Perhaps we simply underestimated each other equally. "Perhaps," I agreed again, finding myself smiling as well. The station eventually returned to its usual quiet rhythm, diplomatic meetings continuing, trade discussions resuming, the everyday business of 6 rival houses slowly settling back into familiar patterns. Yet something fundamental had shifted beneath that surface calm. The old assumptions about humans as simple, disposable protection had quietly begun to crumble, replaced by a new, more careful respect. I never sought recognition for that night. I had done exactly what my role required, nothing more, nothing less. Yet recognition found me anyway, carried quietly through whispered conversations among ambassadors, through careful glances exchanged whenever I entered a crowded room, through Arya's own steady trust that had grown considerably stronger since that chaotic evening. Sometimes, standing quietly behind her during formal gatherings, I would catch her glancing back toward me, a small, private smile crossing her face, before she returned her attention to whatever conversation demanded it. It was a simple gesture, nothing overly dramatic, yet it carried real meaning between us, an understanding built through shared danger and mutual respect. The 6 houses continued their complicated dance of alliance and rivalry, as they likely always would. New threats would surely emerge eventually, new challenges requiring careful navigation and quiet strength. Whatever came next, I felt confident facing it, not simply because of my own training, but because I now understood clearly that Arya was far more capable than anyone, including myself, had initially given her credit for. That single, simple plan from that chaotic night, the refusal to stop moving no matter the odds stacked against us, had carried us both through danger that could easily have ended very differently. It remained, in many ways, the same plan I carried with me every single day afterward, standing quietly behind her, watching every doorway, ready for whatever might come, refusing, always, to stop.